Okay.
About to. It's not like it like randomly it starts to set up, but you don't want to look awkward. All right. Okay. So it seems like we are live, guys.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So to start off, I am Taylor Colmus, and I am the education coordinator at the Clark County Historical Association. And I have some guests here with me today, Lindsay and Allison. They're both awesome museum and educators. So we are going to start with a discussion and some questions. The first question is going to be, how has COVID-19 impacted both of you in the educator sense and in the museum sense? Whoever wants to go first.
Do you want to go first? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
Okay. So education wise and also museum wise, we had the challenge of going virtual. I've done a lot of programs in person since I've started. I've only been in my position about a year. So we do a program called Petite Patriots where the kids come in and I read them a story and then do some type of hands-on activity with them. I did a curating ideas program where we had a homeschool group come in and do like an interactive, like become curators and create their own exhibit. So going from there and then going completely virtual has been a bit of a challenge. I sat down for a good day and just came up with a bunch of different hashtags and different kind of things. But right now the museum's completely closed. We're all working remotely. The main four staff members that we have are a director, assistant director, me, the public programs coordinator, and then our office and store manager. So it's definitely impacted us. I'm not allowed to go to the museum right now because I'm working from home, so it's kind of hard. I had to bring all my stuff home with me, and now we're just virtual. So, and I can talk a little bit about that later, but it's been a challenge. It's not, I think in museum education, all of the like interactives and person to person interaction has been something that's been like drilled in our minds to do. And so when you have to shift that to virtual, it's a bit challenging.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy how being an interactive museum to an institution to virtual, you're like, what do I do now?
Right, exactly. And then you have to consider equity wise, like what resources do they have? What do they not have? Stuff like that. So just trying to make it equitable to everyone has been a challenge as well.
Yep. Allison?
Yeah, so I actually was educator for 3 years. I'm one of those employees who has been furloughed because our museum was very small. So right now they only have 2 staff members working. And they're having to figure out how to social distance. But as soon as we got the call that we had to close things down, we started creating videos immediately. We set up a whole plan. We have I want to say it's like close to 10 educational videos that we did.
Wow.
And what we did was take our educational programs that we teach with school tours and turn them into live videos. So we have a program called Discovery Through Trash. So we pulled a bunch of objects from that and made videos to let everyone at home kind of get a look at the object and guess what it is. And then we had another school tour called History in a Haversack. And those, we actually did videos of the rooms that the haversacks would be opened in, and then opened the haversacks so everyone could get a look at the objects that would be related to that space. So really our main thing was trying to ensure that we still had that element of guessing, letting everyone try to figure out what objects were, even if they weren't there in the museum, trying to make sure that everything is engaging, interactive. The same thing that we would do if people were at the museum. Also, like the curator who is still there right now, she is doing a phenomenal job at doing videos of collection pieces that aren't normally on display. So yeah, it's weird and it's a challenge for everybody. But I also think it's a great opportunity for museums because we have a lot of like paper documents and books and things that can't be put on display. And now our museum is getting to show these off through video, and people are getting to see objects that normally aren't on display, which is pretty great, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the virtual age, I knew it was, coming upon us as it's 2020. Um, and we're all just so interested in the functions of the virtual age and how to use that within our collections. And it's really interesting to get all these different pieces to try to get kids interactive or adults interactive. It's very different.
It is.
You are like made, since with this pandemic, you are made to look outside the box.
Right.
It's not that we have these programs in place, this is what we're going to do, let's just go with the momentum that we already have. And the programs that we've all had that are successful, that we know are going to work. But this is completely different because we have to throw all those programs away.
Right. Right. It's basically like taking what you had and being like, well, this is great, but we need to get rid of this and we need to come up with a whole new game plan.
Yeah.
It's been beneficial in some ways. Our virtual experience and presence online has like skyrocketed. We're reaching out to different age groups that we've never worked with before. We're reaching different people that haven't even come through our doors of our museum. We're doing this, it's called Chats with the Curator. So on Mondays, we do like a live feature where our curator comes in and he shows different artifacts in our collection that are usually behind the scenes and you don't get to see. And people love it. And so we're getting more likes and we're getting out there more. So there's benefits to it, but there's also that drawback of having that personal interaction 24/7. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's with a virtual presence, you have to think, okay, how can I get them not to look at a screen the whole time too?
Right.
How can I get them to go outside the box we just set up this scavenger hunt, like not looking at your phone the whole time, searching for things outside, going to a historic landmark, taking a picture of yourself with them, being silly, being funny, interacting with your parents, kind of having that adult interaction, trying to do webinars and get people involved in that kind of thing. It's a crazy world we live in right now.
And it's also hard to guess like what exactly, when we first started, like what to offer, because right now everyone's in high stress mode. And so if we could be that avenue of like relaxation and like information, but not overload them or overwhelm them, that balance is very important too.
Yeah.
Coloring pages, surprisingly. If you guys haven't uploaded any coloring pages yet, I highly recommend it. It's a small thing, but it's something that helps with the stress too. So that's something that we were trying to get rolling. Just use different collection pieces, use different views of your site, give people images of spaces that maybe they wouldn't typically see.
Right.
We posted a coloring page of one of our writing desks while it was open. So that way everyone can kind of color things inside the desk instead of just the facade of the desk.
Right.
So just small things that also typically help. Like coloring has been scientifically proven to help with anxiety and stress levels. So something like that to kind of help people along during this time. I've colored a couple of them and I'm an adult. So
I mean, I have my own adult coloring book and it's a stress reliever. I mean, with having a husband and 2 children, it can be a little stressful sometimes. And having an outlet for all ages is great. I mean, especially if we haven't done anything yet, but music within your museum, like using music as a way, that's of course, a proven way to relieve stress is to listen to music, to kind of relax, to read a book. Um, Trying to get everybody as interactive as possible.
I noticed for us that a lot of sites are hitting mostly like elementary age students or older or like adults. So I was looking at our stuff that like the things that I have at home and came up with history. So I read like kid books to younger kids and put it virtually online just to offer like younger kids something too to keep them interactive because it's calming and it's they're still getting some history, but it's not like thrown in their face. And it's like because other kids are also overwhelmed with work as it is with schoolwork. I have a little sister who's 10 and she's doing virtual learning for the first time and she's overwhelmed. And I kind of do some programs with her to test them out. And sometimes she's like, this is too much, like just a little bit. So finding that balance once again, it's been progress. It's been a process and there's been some progress, but it's been hard.
Oh yeah, it's it's really hard. I mean, it's hard for myself. I mean, I it's probably hard for all of us.
Yeah.
Because we're learning as they're learning too,
Right.
or they're interacting, trying different things, seeing if this works, see if this works. It's trial and error every time.
And it feels like our country is in a state of trial and error.
Yeah.
Yep.
Adaptability. I think adaptability is kind of key right now for not just museums, but everyone, in all honesty. But I think as museums, we have this opportunity right now to make it clear that art is important. You know, it's something that people need. And I think really that's like such the great thing about all the museums being able to adapt and go virtual and put all this effort into outreach right now because people need the arts. And I think this is a good way to showcase that, at the very least. Positives.
Yeah, I think right now more than ever it shows how important the arts are because it's what's keeping people sane, honestly.
Yeah.
It's what's keeping me sane.
Right.
I mean, in high school, I did choir and, you know, musicals and that kind of thing. And I look back to these kids now that are having, you know, spending their senior year
At home.
And you're trying to, you know, take a little bit of that off of them, you know, trying to make it a little bit more happy, more go-getting, because it's a hard time. Like these kids.
There's a lot on these kids' shoulders right now. And I think I mean, there's a lot on, don't get me wrong, there's a lot on the parents that are at home with the kids.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I'm sure, but the kids themselves, I mean, having to go from instruction in the classroom, something that we've been based upon for centuries, now to like just virtually, I mean, I have to give them so much grace.
Yeah. For educators and in general.
Yeah.
In any field. I mean, it's very hard. You go from this adult children interaction to being so separate.
Right.
It kind of makes you very thankful for the relationships you made when you could go outside your home without putting a mask on, without, you know, having to stay 6 feet apart from someone, you know, getting to hug the elementary kid because they were so excited about your presentation and they were so into the artifacts because, you know, kids love artifacts.
Right, they do.
So it's you go from this touchy-feely interaction to being so separate, and it's kind of like an emotional detachment. You're trying to figure out how to get that emotional attachment back. Right. Going from detachment to attachment.
And that's what we're really trying to be. We've tried really hard to just be like a resource to people who need it, who need that interaction. So that's why we do our live videos. That's why we do our videos, short videos once a week for the kids. Like give them something to look forward to every week. You know what I mean? Because routine for everyone is very important right now. So we try to release like information once a week every on the same day so that people can expect, okay, on Mondays I have this to do. On
Mhm.
Thursdays I have this. So consistency has been really important to me personally at home and also through our resources.
So speaking of home, how is everybody doing at home? How is working from home? The good, the bad, the ugly. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead.
It's a fun topic, especially now.
Yeah, that's I virtual anything is difficult. It takes a lot of concentration,
Mhm.
actually. For people who are having to do it every day, all day, yeah, kudos, because I have no idea how everyone is doing it.
No, I don't either.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to take on. And I mean, like, I don't have kids. I have a cat, and even my cat is driving me insane right now. So, and I'm sure I'm driving her insane. She's used to me being out of the house all the time, and she like this is her space. It's not my space. So now that I'm in her space all the time, she's losing it. So I can only imagine, well, what it's like for you, Taylor. My goodness, the
With
two little
kids.
girls. Whew. So I imagine that it's quite stressful for you because you're having to worry about how to balance work now with having your kids there all the time and like trying to find this dynamic that works for you. I don't kudos.
Yeah, it's crazy because we thankfully we have a wonderful daycare provider and that she's a stay-at-home daycare provider, and
Awesome.
my mom watches the girls too. So she works for the school system, so she's like, okay, I'm not doing anything, so might as well. But it's it's crazy working from home because I get very distracted. I mean, you're sitting there, you're trying to make it a point to sit down and you're like, okay, I have this I need to do and sit there and focus. And then you look over and you're like, there's a toy on the floor that needs to be picked up. There's a dish in the sink that needs to be cleaned. There's
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 always
everything.
something.
The cats need food. The you have all these things that need sustainable life that you're trying to give. I mean, I've learned I can't do a lot of things at night because I pick up the girls usually around 2 o'clock. And what happens after that? Well, I got an 8 month old and a 4 year, almost a 4 year old.
Yeah.
So 4 year old's trying to click on everything. She's like, "Oh, mommy, let me click this." And it's like, "Oh gosh, please let me finish this one thing." And she's like, "No, I want to do this." And you're like, "Okay." And then you have the baby's crying about something because she's a baby, and then and then you're just like, "Okay, I want to try to do like I did trivia when we did trivia night." I was in there. I had to turn off my camera. I gave both the girls a bath
Oh, good.
in bed and still had the trivia up so I could make sure that if anything happened that I was there.
Right.
So like I'm having the computer and I'm walking around, putting the one in the crib, giving her a bottle, rubbing her down, going to the next one, putting her in her bed, reading her a book. So it's for all those parents out there, for everyone. I mean, we all have to figure out a way to balance it, and it's hard. It
It
is
is.
really, really hard.
Yeah, I'm currently in grad. I don't have kids, so I guess I can't. It's just me. But I'm
But
currently in grad
you're
school.
still having a struggle. Everybody's having a struggle, no matter if you got kids or not.
Right, right. I'm working from home. I've been working from home since March 13th. So I have my desk here, and then but my bed's right there, and my homework is right there. So it's hard when you're in the same room trying to stay on task with what you have, and then also shifting from that mode of going to work every day and having that routine. Um, Everyone's been suggesting setting a routine, and I think it's a great idea for some people. The structure of that at home when things are completely different than being at the workplace has been a little hard for me. So I made like a flexible routine. So like between these hours I'll have lunch, or between these hours I'll wake up. So I'm not, I mean, I wake up at 8 every morning for work, and then I'm on work from 8 to 5, so that gives me some sense of routine. But it's been a process of trying to balance it all. I think we talk about all the time, like, look, we can work from home now, we've proven it. But I'm like, I love working outside of home.
Right. Yeah, it's not
I
the
love
same.
I love being able to separate the two, you know?
Like, kudos to all those parents that can homeschool and do all of this while doing everything else, because I don't know how you do
Like,
it.
I feel like everyone has the sense of like having to be on 24/7. Like our phones are like, everyone knows that everyone's home right now. So it's expected to just be on 24/7. So giving yourself that grace of like, okay, I've worked from 8 to 5. Let me like relax. Or okay, I can still take sick leave if I need a mental health, you know what I mean? Like stuff like, I'm very privileged that I have that option still. Um, Luckily I haven't had to tap into it, but remembering stuff like that, that we don't have to be on 24/7.
Yeah, I mean, we're not on 24/7 when we're working our
Right,
normal hours.
right.
So that's why it's
Although
like,
we are a small museum, so I will say we do a little bit more than the typical 8 to 5.
oh yeah, got you.
Like I'm the public programs coordinator, but I'm also the educator. I'm also the social media manager. I'm also the rental person. Um,
We're a party of three.
I'm also the tour person. So exactly. So
Adaptability.
it's important. It's important
Come
right now.
on.
But it's been a process. I also have a roommate who's working a lot, and so we have Zoom meetings and then walls, and so making sure like I'm very loud, so making sure I'm not
That's
too
it.
loud, or not walking behind in my pajamas. You know, it's been a balance, I think, for everyone. And I think it's important that everyone gives themselves grace too for their mental health. To take time for themselves too is very important.
Yeah, take a break.
Take a break.
Yeah, just take a break. It is okay. This is a time where you may not even realize how high your anxiety is and how stressful this is actually on your body. Take a break. It
And what
is okay.
And what people don't realize is we're all in survivor mode right now.
Yeah.
So we're numb to it all, and at times it hits, and it really hits hard. And we're kind of like, whoa, we're just kind of going through the motions right now. And that can really have an impact on your health.
Yeah.
I think it's just important to get out and get moving, as important as to take care of your mental health. So I have brain breaks throughout the day where I like pick up a book and read for 15 minutes, and it really helps.
Yeah, I mean, the first week staying home, it was like I would catch myself working my normal hours and then going into the night too. Like,
Yeah.
as soon as I get the girls to bed, I'd be like, oh, I gotta get this done. I gotta get this done. If I don't get this done, I don't think I'm gonna finish it this week. Like, I have to get this done. And you have to like lean back on yourself and be like, stop. You worked your hours. You did what you could. It's a different environment. It's a different place setting. You're gonna have to get used to it. It don't work into the hours. Like, you wouldn't normally do this. So why are you doing it now?
And I think there's pressure on all of us.
You're like,
Right. There's pressure on us. I mean, we all love our jobs, and there's pressure to make sure that our museums are staying relevant right now. And making sure that we have a voice during all of this, so that when this ends, that, I mean, 1/3 of museums are projected to close right now, and it's something, a fear that we all have right now. And I care so much about my position, and I care about the people we're serving, that so I will be doing that. I'll be like going to bed, and I'm like, oh gosh, I have this program I want to do. I need to like sit down and do it right away. So I think that pressure there of just wanting to make sure our museums stay in the forefront is really important right now.
Yeah. So, Allison, since you are furloughed, and I know that's awful, and it's a sad time for everybody that's furloughed right now. But you decided that you're going to make the best of it. And what are you doing now?
Right. So I actually just finished a certification to teach English as a second language. So I haven't stopped teaching yet, even though I'm not teaching in my museum currently. I'm still interacting with my museum, and I'm submitting another interview for VIP Kids probably this afternoon, honestly, because I don't want to miss this opportunity to keep teaching. I feel like there are a lot of people right now who really want this. I want to call it a distraction, but it kind of is a distraction. I have decided to do this, to keep working through teaching English, even though history is what I would rather be teaching. I still want to be giving back somehow, any way that I can. So that's something that I've been working on since I'm
Yeah.
not at the museum anymore.
Awesome.
Which I've also been suggesting to people, if you find that you have this time now, pick up a class. Like, there are plenty of online places where you can pick up a new skill, where you can learn something new. There are a lot of places that teach sign language. Learn sign language if you don't already have that skill. Learn a new language, period. Like, there's so much that you can be doing to kind of hit that creative outlet if you are interested in teaching. There are plenty of outlets to teach right now as well. So I know that it's stressful and there's a lot on everyone's mind, but I feel like this is an opportunity for people to learn new things, to keep helping others if you can. Maybe that's just because I'm one of those personality types who can't sit still.
Same.
Ever. Like, I have to have some project going at all points, and usually multiple projects. So I feel like this is an opportunity to keep doing things, not just sit back and let time pass by.
Right. No, I agree. And I think learning right now is something I'm taking advantage of too with being home. I'm taking all these, like, VAM is offering a lot of amazing webinars. Small Museums is offering webinars. There's so many different webinars that I've been taking to learn something new. There's a lot of museum books I've been reading. So taking advantage, I have like a 20 minutes where I just sit down and brainstorm different ideas. So save it for a rainy day. But I think what you're doing is amazing, and I think it's important to remember, like, just because we're at a standstill doesn't mean our brains have to be.
Right, exactly. And that's, if you guys aren't part of the Museum Education Roundtable, I highly suggest becoming part of that. Their resources are absolutely amazing. And that's something that I've been spending time reading through as well, because typically you don't have that kind of time to dig through all of their articles, and sometimes not all of them seem relevant to what you're supposed to be doing at your job right then. So now I'm getting to dig through all of those that maybe I wouldn't have had time for beforehand, but now I can go back and read that and see maybe if something there would apply later on.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's a double-edged sword.
It is.
Yeah, because you're like, okay, this pandemic has done extreme damage to a lot of things close to our hearts. But then again, like you said, it's given us an opportunity to learn different things, to go out and actually do things, to do things we wouldn't have done before.
Right.
And it's like, you see people who were never going out for walks, going for walks.
Right.
People spending time with their children. I mean, that maybe took it for granted, and now they're realizing this, and it's gonna be interesting how we adapt and how the world possibly changes because of this. It's
interesting. And I think it's more important than ever to make sure, and I think we've always talked about this, about how important it is to keep museums relevant during any time in history. I think now is more important than anything to remember that, and to be a resource and be a guide and a learning outlet.
Yeah.
Keep a journal. There are a lot of museums asking for pandemic journals right now. Keep a
Yeah,
journal every day.
we're living in history right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, we're asking for entries, diary entries, that kind of thing, through our blog post, and we're calling it hashtag your story. And you just upload whatever you have, and we just keep it in our archives. And
And
yeah,
I think history is important to remember because we've been through this before. I mean, we've talked about this. James Monroe lived through like three of these, three epidemics.
Right.
And I find it oddly comforting to know that in history itself, with like not as much technology as we have now, we've got through it and we've resumed life and we've been okay. And I mean, there's been loss with it, but looking at history and seeing, patterns and seeing that there'll be an end to this as well. And we'll be talking about this with our kids one day.
yeah.
Telling them
Right.
you can't be bored. I like lived in my house for 4 months and couldn't go out. So don't tell me that. Like this will be a spot in history at some point.
Oh yeah, I guarantee it'll be in history books. People, the when the world shut down.
Right.
Well, because it's like eventually all of us have been shut down at one point.
Right.
It's a pandemic. So it's interesting to see what's going to be the outcome and the ending. Because, I mean, I know we're probably all thinking with programs or, going back to normal life and getting
Right. What's
to
that
the
look like?
what are we going to do? How much social media are we expected to do? How
Right.
much physical presence are we expected to do? Like what does the community want? What will they want? We know what they want now, but what will they want after this? It's going to be a complete shift, and we kind of just have to go with it.
You have to roll with it. I mean, and like I said, my only goal right now is to make sure our museum is doing what they can to stay around and stay relevant. And I think, and museums always have done this, where we have adjusted with the times. We've changed exhibits. We've been more accessible. I mean, there's always room for growth. So maybe this will, if anything, this can be a learning lesson for all of us.
As all of us as educators too, we're teaching the historians and the little minds that be coming up who are going to take our jobs one day.
Exactly.
Like, who are going to be the ones giving out this information. So it's like we have to train them too on how history is fun, on how history is not just black and white, how there is so much gray area, to make them more interested in what we're teaching and what we're talking about. Because if we don't have those kids, those little minds that grow up to be one of us, we won't have the kind of support system that we do now.
I always say our history is already in the hands of the younger generation. Our time with history is, I mean, we're serving it, but
Yeah.
we are, it's in the hands of our younger generation, and it's important to hand it to them in a great manner because they're going to be in charge of it someday.
Yeah, I agree. I
think a lot of museums right now are also learning how important outreach is, especially in terms of the younger generation. Like there are a lot of kids who, like me growing up, I loved history, but like my brother absolutely despised it. Right. So I think it's important right now to consider this and how this is going to affect future historians and making sure that we provide all of the resources that they need to fuel that passion for history. So I think outreach is going to become such an important thing. I mean, it's going to be great to get people back in the museums, and outreach was already important, but I think it's going to become so much more important now that this has happened. And places have realized that, you know, you can do this. This is something that you can do. You can reach out to all of these people, and people are still going to want to come to your site. I know that's a big fear for people. You know, if we put everything on the internet, who's going to come? Who's going to come see us?
Right.
But after this, I think people are going to be really excited just to get back to the places. Yeah, that I think it's good that we're doing all of this outreach. We're putting everything that we can out there, let people know like all of the history that we can about these places and why it's so important.
Right.
And I think that'll help future generations. You know, now they're getting to see us on their platforms. Everything is going mobile now, so this is a really important thing, the shift of being able to do everything online. Like, yeah, we'll be able to catch them now. Here it is. This is our way to finally grab them and then pull them into the sites.
And I'll be honest with you, to play devil's advocate, I think we were almost afraid of doing this as museums.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we were afraid of taking this plunge and seeing where it took us. And so this kind of forced us to put things at risk. And I think the outcome proves that it's important to take risks, and it's important to, because we still have people who are watching our lives, doing everything during the week with us, but are still like, I would love to come visit the museum once it's over. There's still an element of mystery with the institution. You know, I mean, you're not going to stop going to the Smithsonian because they're doing live chats with you. Right. It's going to happen. So I think finding that balance afterwards of traditional versus advanced is going to be an interesting thing. I really hope that museums don't go back to completely what they did before.
We're
going to have to find a balance.
Because now there's an expectation.
Yeah.
There's going to have to be a balance between like having some virtual lives, doing these talks, actually getting the community involved, letting them know like the inside scoop. They don't know a lot about what museums are going through right now.
Exactly.
What nonprofits in general are going through. So it's hard when the community is like, oh, well, they're doing this and this, but it's actually like, no, we are trying so hard to make it so that everybody is involved.
Right.
And I guess, you know, we're going to have to do that through virtual learning in a certain aspect. Obviously, not all of us are going to be able to, with our small staffs, be able to keep up with everything, but we will be able to do a substantial amount. We just have to figure it out and do it a little bit simpler.
Right. I think it's really hard to compare, and I think museums are having a hard time comparing themselves to other museums right now because we're all virtual, so we get to see what's going on 24/7. But I think it's important for small museums to remember we're doing everything at our capacity. We can't, you know, we're not a large institution, but we're doing what we can right now, and that's what matters most.
Yep, it is. Well, do you ladies have any other questions for me or that you wanted to ask one another specifically?
I have a quick question for you because we talked about it. How is the scavenger hunt going?
So it's going pretty good. So the first one was a trial run type of thing, and we had a good bit of submissions because what they do is they have a clue, they take a picture, and they submit it. You can make the scavenger hunt as long as you want. It's an unlimited time. You can end it whenever you want. You can say, hey, this will be 24 hours, and you just end it. You have control of the time span. But like, the program that we have right now is only for iPhone users, but I talked to the developers of the program, and they are getting an Android version out in the next 2 weeks.
Good.
So us being able to highlight that, you know, it's called Scaver, CAVR, and using that platform, and you can put your own questions in, your own clues. You can do it where they have to take a video. There's different aspects, like they have to find the password, like what kind of password. Like if you did more interactive where you went out and put like actual signs and or passwords for it. So it's really a good platform, and I really enjoyed it. And I think people are enjoying it also. So I really like it, and it gets people outside, and anybody can do it. Doesn't matter how old you are.
I think that's important too, getting people outside right now. I mean, safely.
Safely, right.
But I think so. What may I ask? What else are you offering through your website, like through your social media?
So right now we have made jigsaw puzzles out of photos in our archive. So we have a bunch of jigsaw puzzles. We have crosswords. We have word searches. We have the scavenger hunt. We have our letter project where you go into our blog and you pick a letter, you transcribe it, and then you re-upload it. And
oh, how cool is that?
Anybody from home can do it.
Okay.
Nice.
So it's a good way to get the community involved, to see what's in your archive firsthand.
Right.
And also put a little relief off of yourself.
Right.
Especially for our archivists, because they're working tirelessly, also trying to work from home, which is very, very difficult.
It is.
So
we're currently, we release things Monday through Friday. So I definitely recommend people checking out our page too, James Monroe Museum. We do our chats with the curator once a week. I share a story once a week for little kids. And we also share hands-on history activity once a week. So we hope people will join us there as well. Also, we love doing this today. Taylor, it was great talking with you, and Allison, same to you.
Same to you.
yeah.
I guess one last question I have is, do you have any recommendations for any other museums or any advice that you think is important for them to remember?
Research what every other museum is doing, because not everything's going to work for your museum. But like we have the hashtag History is Alive challenge that I've been doing, which every week I'm taking Virginia history or Shenandoah Valley history and making them into like 5 different challenges that you can do throughout the week.
Right.
And they're all interactive. They're either making crafts, going outside. And you're still learning, but it's not like
overwhelming.
Here's all this information.
Here's your homework on top of your homework.
Yeah, it's just like something fun to do, and you don't have to do it. It's just there if you want to use it. If you don't, cool. And we have something that we're doing every Saturday. I'm recording some videos called the Archive Insider. Melanie's awesome, and she's doing all the research part for me, and I'm doing the videos and telling people about different buildings in the county, of different landmarks, different little mystery cities, cemetery that we have. And then we have our insiders where we go into different, because we have different historical homes in Clark County that people would normally not go into. And so we're like, okay, this is an awesome way to do this. We wanted to do this anyways. Now this has actually give us the push to actually do it.
Right.
So it's great. I did a lot of research. I've had a lot of backup. It's most important that you have your boards back up too. Your board is going to be your backbone, especially if you have an awesome board like we do.
Right.
I mean, they have been super supportive and super behind everything we're doing. So I would make sure to present everything, be like, hey, look at what we're doing. Look at how we have become different than what we were, and it's working.
Working, that's the key.
It's working. And it's working everywhere. Now, when all this dies down and we're not using the digital age as much, we'll have to find something else that works. But like you said, museums have adapted
We will continue to adapt.
We will continue to adapt and it will be fine. So, anything else, you guys, for today?
I think we're good.
Yeah.
All right, cool. If anybody has that has been watching that has any questions, please leave them in the comments, and I will distribute those comments and questions accordingly for anybody. If you want them to go to me, if you want them to go to Lindsay, if you want them to go to Allison. But I thank you all for joining us today and seeing what the impact of COVID-19 is on museums and education. So thank you, ladies, for joining me, and I will talk to you later.
Thanks, Taylor.
Bye.
Bye.